We're going to make a standard 24 frame walk cycle. The first thing I do is go to the output properties and make sure the frame rate is 24 FPS. Then we can adjust the timeline so it ends on 24 frames, and I'll just use the mouse wheel to zoom in a little bit here, like so, and then drag this bar to get this highlighted portion into the center of this panel. Now you can see I've already added a few markers at the bottom, like C1, D1, etc. And you can add these markers using this menu. So M to add marker and Control M to rename them. So these will be my poses. So this is contact, and every 3 frames I'll use the arrow keys here to move forward. So 1, 2, 3, I have a new marker. So 1, 2, 3, new marker, and so on and so forth. And the interesting point here is at the end, on this marker, I'll do 1, 2, and 3, and you'll see that this last one is outside of our range. So this is kind of important to get this thing to loop properly. Let's go to the animation tab. I'm going to switch things around a little. So I'm going to set this to be the graph editor. I will set this to be the dope sheet. This can remain the viewport, and I'm just going to drag this to the side so it's as small as possible because we don't really need this bit. Now let's go to the action editor in the dope sheet. Alright, you select the dope sheet with this button, and then you select the actions editor from within the dope sheet using this second drop down menu here. So action editor, and then use the mouse wheel to scroll to this bit here and then select new, and this will be the name of our new animation. So we're just going to call it walk cycle. Yeah, let's put a number at the end, and then I will click here to make sure that this walk cycle gets saved when we close Blender. So it's kind of important to click on this. Back in the layout panel, I'm going to go into pose mode, and then I'm going to turn off all of these layers, okay? And I'm just going to select the ones that we're actually going to use. So that will be the torso, the FK arms, and the IK legs. And we don't really need the root. Now, let me just close everything here, rig layers to the top, rig main properties right underneath. Now I'm going to open this transform panel here, and I'm going to select some of these controls, like the foot IK control over here, and I'm going to make sure that this value is XYZ Euler. Rigify will have this standard to quaternion WXYZ, but we're going to use the graph editor mostly to make our animation. And quaternions are difficult to understand when looking at a graph, so we want to set this to be Euler. And similarly, I have set all of these controls that we're going to use to Euler. That'll just make it easier to make our animation. So you have to do this. I've already done this for all of these controls. Now I can right click on this first frame for our animation and turn on recording by clicking on this little button here. Now I can go into orthographic view with the 5 key, then 1 to get the forward view. I'm just going to adjust the feet a little bit better, but now when he's in a standing A pose, the feet will be quite far apart. But when you're walking, the feet are much closer together, much closer to this center line here. So for male characters, the feet will be kind of close to this line. For female characters, they might be right on the line or even overlapping it a little bit. So the first thing we do is click on this control, then G, lock on the X-axis by pressing the X key, and then just drag it into place a little like so, and then I'm going to rotate it with the R key, lock it to the Z-axis, and then rotate it like so, and maybe move it even closer to the center line. Now you'll need to experiment with this for what looks good enough. Now I can do Control C to copy it, and then Shift Control V to get the other side. So now our feet are positioned somewhat like we want them to be. With this control still selected, I'm going to go into the side view, and then I will just move it forward, G, lock it to the y-axis, and then I'm going to move forward about here, I think. Just about there, and then move this back to be about over there. Now the feet will lift off the ground obviously, but that's okay. The reason we're doing this is so we can have some idea of where to place the torso control. So first of all, I'm just going to move this, rotate this into position like so, right? Straighten out the foot a little, and then I can drag this torso control down by locking it to the z-axis until I get a little bend in the leg. Right, so this is stretched too much, and right about there should be okay. Maybe a little bit more. Now I can just rotate this into position as well, so I get a bent leg like so. Okay, let me just turn off this transform panel, and we want to have these two things expanded most of the time. Okay, so now I'm going to select these two controls and then these two controls, and I will do Control C to copy it. All right, the cursor needs to be in the viewport for this to work, and then I'll get the cursor over here to this last marker that is outside of our range, and I'm going to right click on it to put the cursor over here, and then with the mouse cursor back in the viewport, I will do Control V to paste it. Alright, so we copied this when the cursor was over here, and then we pasted it over here, and you'll see this bar. That means that both of these keys are duplicates. Nothing has changed, which is usually a bad thing in animation. That's okay. Now we're going to put the cursor over here, right click on C2, so that's the second contact position, and over here I will do Shift Control V, and that'll paste a flipped pose. So what that means is that we start out over here with this foot forward, that foot back, but as we move forward in the timeline, by the time you get to the second contact position, the feet have flipped, and then moving on again, the feet will flip again. So if I press the space bar, I can see this initial animation happening. So I'm just going to stop this, go back to the first frame, go to the side view. Now we're going to work on the torso control. The positioning of the feet was really just so we can have a better understanding of where we want this thing to be. So first of all, when you're moving, you're slightly bent forward. So I'm just going to press R to rotate this and give it a slight forward bend. Okay, not too much, just a little bit. And we've already moved it down a little bit. Now we can select the pelvis control, and I'm going to rotate this and lock it to the z-axis, and then I'm going to move it so that the forward is positioned more towards the forward leg. Okay, so let's see this from the front, right? So here's where the leg joins the pelvis, and you can see that the socket is now more forward than it used to be, and similarly the socket for this leg is towards the back. Now, so that's one of the changes that we make to the pelvis. The second one is that we will rotate it slightly to the side so it's bent to one side, like so, and you could see that the belt line has now moved, so it's kind of dipping that way, and we rotated it like this, so this bit is a little bit forward and that's a little bit back. Okay, so back to the side view, and now we can select both the pelvis and the torso. So I'm just going to shift click on this and then do Control C to copy it. So the first contact pose, take it to the end for the last contact pose, and then Control V. So we have a duplicate, first and the last, and then in the middle we can do Shift Control V to paste the flipped version of it. Now what that gives us is a movement on the pelvis in two directions. We're twisting it, so it favors one leg forward, but we're also dipping to one side, so the belt line will move as the character is walking. So I'm just going to stop this back to the first contact pose and to the side. Okay, I'm going to select this heel control, and if I drag on the timeline, you'll see it starts going back like so. But what I want to do is I'm going to select this frame, so this will be our down position. So this is the contact and then the down. So I'm going to do Alt R to remove the rotation on this, so it's flat on the ground. And if I move it further along the timeline, you'll see it does something strange. It goes right back up, because in this contact position it's supposed to be up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the up position and remove the rotation from here as well. So from the down through the passing position to the up, it'll stay down. So so contact, it's up, then on the down it's on the floor, and then it stays on the floor to the up position, and then back to the contact position. It goes like so. Same for the other foot. So go back here for this one. We want it to, it'll be on this contact position, then on down it'll be on the ground, and then if I remove the rotation on the up position for this, it'll stay down for the entire duration from the contact position to the up, and then it'll move back to the contact position and move back up like so. So it was basically the same thing that we did for this control, but it's on the second half of the animation. Okay, so in the down position, so I'm just going to select this frame here, so that'll be 4. I want to push this further down, so I'm going to grab it, lock it to the z-axis, and then bring it further down. So the heavier this character is, you really want to feel this impact on the ground like so. And then I'm just going to ignore the pass position. This is the up position, and this is the final contact pose. Now the up position needs to be higher than the contact position. So I'm just going to make a visual reference here. So this point is about over here. So in the up position, that point needs to be higher than that. And that's not the only consideration. We also want to take a look at how the leg is bent, and well, that'll kind of be informed by who your character is and what conditions he's walking in, but that's for another day. Right now I just want this point to be higher than it is in this location, and then I can just copy these over. So I'm just going to copy this, put this over there, and then I'm going to copy this and put this on the second up position. So contact, down, passing position, up, back to contact, and then the same thing repeats again. You have another down, another passing position, another up, and then the second contact. So if you play this, you can see it's kind of walking, although really badly, but we can improve that. So I'm just going to stop this, back to the first one. Now let's go to the animation tab. I'm going to drag this window up like so, and maybe move it a bit over here like that. Go into orthographic view and the front view, and I also prefer to have shading on. Okay, now I'm going to select the pelvis control again, and I'm going to expand this bit here. Now we don't change the scale on the pelvis control, so we can just turn the scale off, because we're not using it. We also don't add any translation on the pelvis bone, so we can turn that off. And now we can look at these graph values. They're color coded, so XYG is RGB, so red, green, and blue. X will always be red. So since we don't add any rotation on the x-axis, you can see that this is a straight line, and we can just ignore this, turn this off. And now we can, let me just select this bit here. So I prefer to visually verify what this value is doing. So if I press the G key and then move it, you can see its immediate effect on the character. So this controls the angle of the belt line, right? And this controls the overall twist of the legs. So that way we can know what these values are doing. Now I can isolate either of these graphs by just doing Shift H. Well, so just select one so it's highlighted and then do Shift H to just isolate it. That gets rid of the others. And now I'm going to expand this bit here. Go to modifiers, and then this you have to select the first frame, so the cursor on the first frame, and then just add a cycles modifier, right? So this gives us a smooth incoming and outgoing graph. So similarly on the y-axis, let me just select this, Shift H, isolate it, and then add a cycles modifier. Now what I'm going to do here is to select all of these key values and then press G and then 3. 3 will move it 3 frames forward. So that means that our new low point is on the down, right? So we just modified the animation without messing about over here in the viewport. So if you look at, if you bring back the Z values, you can see that its high point was here and low was there, while this thing had a low point here and the high was over here, so we just modified it. Now if I play this animation, this actually looks more natural now because we updated the low point for the belt movement. I can similarly dampen or amplify the entire track. So if I was to select all of these values here, like so, I can do S to scale, Y to lock the y-axis, and then I can just move this entire the entire thing so that it's really to one side, or just dampen it so it's barely moving, or even flip it around and right click to cancel. So you can use this method to dampen or amplify movement in your animation. Back in the layout panel, let's go back into pose mode. Now from contact to down, if I just slide on the timeline, you can see that this foot is now moving backwards and this foot moves forward, but we don't want that to happen. From contact to down, we want both feet to move backwards so that this distance is maintained for this duration. So I'm just going to go to down. Well, let's just count the distance here. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 squares here, half of this one and half of that one. So in down, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cancel this rotation, and then I'm going to rotate this entire thing like so. Like so, and then move it back so it has a distance of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and almost 7. So maybe a bit forward. And then perhaps just a little bit more. All right, like so. Moving forward onto the pass position, we don't want this to be, we don't want any rotation on this control here, and I want this to be further up like so. So I'm just going to look at the other side, and we don't need this to be too high off the floor, just clearing the floor so it's not in the way. And that looks good to me. Okay, and now we can just copy this, paste it on the other down with Shift Control V so it's flipped so it gets the other foot. and then the pass position, copy this, go to the other pass, and then paste it flipped so it's on the other foot. And we don't really change anything on the up, so that should be that, and it's kind of walking. Now we can improve this quite a bit, so let's work on that. Now let's look at it from the front. So when we go to down, I want to rotate it so it's more like vertical, right? So straight up. And then on the pass position, I want to rotate this, lock the z-axis, move it like so, and then grab, lock on the x-axis, and move this whole thing over there. So like so, then move it a bit more to the side, I think, like that, and then it'll automatically come back and back onto the contact. Right, so we changed it down. So copy on the other side, control shift V, and then we change the pass position. So copy on the other pass, shift control V to paste flipped, and now we have a modified animation. There is one more motion we need to add to the torso control. So I'm just going to select this. Okay, so right now it doesn't move side to side. So I'm going to go to the pass position, grab, lock the x-axis, and then just going to move it slightly like so. So it's a bit, just a tiny little bit to one side, right? Then I'm going to copy this and paste it flipped so it is to the other side on the other pass position. Now this is going to cause a bit of a problem. If we go into the animation, I'm going to expand this. The torso control is selected here, so these are all torso graphs, and I'm just going to find the X location and Shift H to hide it. Now because we were copy pasting all of the keys back and forth earlier, we have some unwanted keys here. Alright, so this is the pass position, and this is the other pass, and this is the contact. So we don't want a key on the down or the up here. So I'm just going to delete this. Delete this one, delete the key on the up, right? So we want to keep the contact, delete the second down, and delete the second up. So this is all we want, and we can also delete this one to get a really smooth graph here. So playing this, it now moves side to side. The belt line is moving. It's, you know, right now the movement might be too much. Okay, so what we're doing here, we just want to get the right movements in, and then we can use the graph editor to dampen or amplify some parts so it looks good. That's for later on. We'll do the polish later on. Right now we just need to have something that works. So we should also add a cycle modifier here. So if you see this bit here, contact, second contact, it's outside of our range. So if we put a cycles here, you'll see that this graph actually changes. So the way it exits and enters the keys within our range actually changes based on whether or not there's a cycles modifier. So you should always add one when it makes sense. Our animation makes it a little bit better. Now, if we play this from the contact to the down position, if you look at this heel control, you'll see it goes down, 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 but we want to make it go faster. So what we can do is go into the animation, and with the controls selected, we can look at its graph values. On the X Euler rotation, let me just isolate this with Shift H. I can select this bit here, this key, press T and make it linear. So that'll make it go down faster. Similarly, if I move the timeline forward, go to the second contact position, I can select this control here select this graph, Shift H to isolate it, T, and make this linear as well. You can also move this key back by 1 if you want, so that will be just G and -1 to move it back 1 frame to make this go even faster. But I think I'll leave it as it is in this video. Okay, back in layout, if I go into pose mode and we take a look at what this animation looks like, you can see that it does look like he's walking, especially with the perspective turned on. This is not a half-bad animation, even though there may be many shortcomings. But right now, all we want is a start, something that we can build on. So I think this works pretty well for the lower body. In the next video, we'll check out how to make the upper body. So be sure to subscribe and like this video if you want more of this kind of content. And if you have any ideas on how to make this even better, write them down in the comments. I am myself just learning this stuff, so anything you have to say, anything you have to add, be sure to put them in the comments and like the video. And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.